Professor Peter Baofu. He is an American visionary and author of so many books and articles, 179 of them. Mostly his work is characterized by challenging the conventional wisdom, and he's traveled in so many countries in Africa and of course across outside Africa. He is the person that I have in my program speak out today, and we'll talk about different issues that are affecting Malawi, Africa, and globe at large. And we'll be talking about different issues in our program today in the Speak Out. Welcome to the program, Professor.
Thank you for inviting me.
I don't know if my short introduction has done it all, but maybe you can elaborate more about your background. Who are you and what have you done in terms of your academics, in terms of your professionalism?
As you have said eloquently, I am an American visionary and author of 179 books and many other articles in all fields of knowledge in relation to the mind, nature, society, and culture, which means that I have written in all fields of knowledge, the social sciences, the natural sciences, the humanities, and the formal sciences, ultimately for some unified theories of everything. And I have been in more than 132 different countries by now as part of my global tour. And by the end of this project, I should be in more than 150 or 60 or 70. That means that's not much for me to go. And I do this because I want to understand humanity on the ground, not just by reading a book in a library, which is very easy for me to do, but it doesn't give me any face-to-face interaction with people and societies on Earth. And I do that because I want to provide some realistic solution to global problems affecting all humanity, not just one culture, one society, and one history. And I have provided so far more than 145 different new visions and theories of the human future. And in that regard, I have been interviewed all over the world about my visions and my solution to global problems. So that's just a very short summary about what you said, but in a very elaborate way.
I think that's a long one as well, but thank you very much for your time, and welcome to Malawi.
Okay, thank you.
We want to talk about different issues, as I said, and we will engage you. Let me just tell my viewers and my listeners that the thoughts that will be said in this program are not necessarily those of MBC or the producer, but they are the thoughts of Professor Baofu. Some of the things that he will say in the program might be sensitive, but I think he will talk about hard teachings in this program that I want you to brace, and I want you to understand whatever point that I will say. As I said, they don't in any way represent his views, don't in any way represent the views of MBC, but I want to tap knowledge from him, tap wisdom from him. And one of the things that I want to talk about is national unity versus national identity. What have you seen? I hear these are some of the things that derail or can propel development. What are your thoughts about national identity and national unity?
I think that is a very good topic in Africa because for a long time, I'm sure you know about it, have you ever heard the term Pan-Africanism?
Yes. Okay,
that is a major driving ideology by many African ideologues and
people such as Kwame Nkrumah.
You have people like those in Saqqara or what's the name of the one in Congo many years ago. Patrick Lumumba. You have the one in Tanzania. He died a long time ago. What's the name again? But anyway, you have many of them. Nelson Mandela is another one. You have many people, in fact, even before that, in America, you have black slavery. And just in case you do not know, Liberia in Western Africa was founded by black slaves from the US. They returned home. The reason I picked that example is because what I'm going to tell you will shock you. the notion of Pan-Africanism, national identity, unity, and all that. Now, that is the rhetoric, that's the dream, that's the wish. But the reality is that Africa has been infected with a major problem, which is called tribalism. Now, I can see both sides of the debate. Your neighbor not far from here, Rwanda, as you know, and Burundi too, by the way, some decades ago you have the genocide, okay? And some of them blame on the government, the colonial legacy, let's say Belgium and all that, and they try to divide all these ethnic groups into arbitrary boundary. And over time, people are not happy with the boundaries that have been imposed on. It doesn't reflect their true ethnic identity. So each side is going to, to proclaim or to claim their own ethnic identity, resources, sovereignty, right, and all that. Now, that is a major problem because over time, things often do not work out. Let me give you some examples about Liberia, and then I come back to Malawi, okay? I'm not sure if you remember the history. Liberia, the foundation of Liberia as an African country was based on the black slaves from America. They returned home. They say, well, slavery in America, they treated us like slaves. We don't want to live in America anymore. Now we want to found a new country which is free for us. For the first time, we returned to Africa. So some of them went to Liberia. Now, the sad news about that is, you probably heard about this story before. They call that some of those people, the Liberians now, the American slave, they went to Liberia, they found the country, and over time what happened is that there is a problem, the ethnic problem between some of the local ethnic tribes. And the black slaves, they came from America. And they dominated the rest of the tribes.
The locals.
Yes, the locals. So there is a resentment for many years between the dominance of they are the descendants of the founding fathers who were the black slaves from America versus the local ethnic tribes.
So there were still people in Freetown, in Liberia, before the abolition of slave trade.
Yeah. So what happened is that I forget about which year. I think in 1980 or whatever, there was a coup d'etat.
Yes.
I think his name is Samuel Doe.
Samuel Doe.
Yes. He belonged to one of the local tribes. So he overthrew the government. I think I forget about the name. It's Torbert or something like that, I forget about the name. And when he came into power through the coup, he executed all these other tribes. I mean, the one who came from America many years ago. Yes. So what they did is that they were very brutal. This is to show you how ethnic tribalism is so intense in Africa. Let me describe to you briefly what they did. They executed all of them, the families and all that. They did not spare anyone. They even dismember. They cut off the body. They don't just kill you. They cut off your body. Some of them ate them. Cannibalism, by the way, was a practice in Liberia and also in Western Africa for quite some time. So, and just to tell you about the horrific nature of tribalism, in some of those areas, if you belong to one tribe, you enter into another tribe territory, the tradition, and some of them can kill you. They do not just kill you, they dismember you, they eat you. Okay, cannibalism. Now, that's what they did to the opposition. They killed them all, they dismembered them, did a lot of things. Now, unfortunately for Samuel Doe, when he came into power after he killed all these people and did a lot of massacre, he created a lot of hatred among other tribes now. So instead of his tribe versus this one, now this tribe versus other tribes. So in 1990 or 1989, I do not remember exactly the date, another group come in.
And overthrew him.
They overthrew him, just as he did before. Now, what they did, you can even watch that video on YouTube. I do not remember the name. It's that Prince Johnson, and then it's that Charles Taylor. Those are the two major figures carrying out the coup. So I think Prince Johnson, what he did, and then he videoed that execution on TV, so that everyone can watch it. What he did to Samuel Doe, do you know what he did? He cut off his ear of Samuel Doe. He was the president. He cut off his penis. He castrated him in front of the TV. You understand me? He killed him. He dismembered him. And they eat him. You understand me? How horrific. Now, later on, I think Charles Taylor was convicted for crimes against humanity by the International Criminal Court. I think Prince Johnson asked for forgiveness. He was converted to become a Christian, and he begged the family of Samuel Doe to forgive him. Okay, the same thing in Rwanda. Now, Rwanda tried to fix that by asking for national unity. But in the process, you have another problem. The problem is that there is according to the opposition, there is a lot of violation of human rights, even in Rwanda right now. It's too tough. In Rwanda right now, you are supposed to talk about national unity.
We're talking about how can these things derail development.
That is what I mean. That is a trade-off. Just like the trade-off between the work ethics. Why do I care to tell you the two stories? One is the black ethics, the other one is the Japanese or the East Asian work ethic. The same thing here. There's the two ethics over here. That's why I spend time talking about the other side. Important. Because Pan-Africanism is just a dream. It's an ideology. The one which opposes that is tribalism. Just like the work ethics between the black joy of life versus the workaholic is Asian ethics. Which one do I choose? It's up to you. Whichever one you choose, there are consequences. There's something about this one. You want Pan-Africanism and national identity, what is happening in Rwanda right now, or you want to have the tribal mindset, which is also very appealing to a lot of people. Even in Malawi, you have a lot of different tribes, and each of them speak their own local ethnic language. And they are very proud of their ethnic identity. Are you going to tell them that from now on you should not talk about your ethnic identity, talk about the national identity only, talk about the Malawi national identity, not about your ethnic group? There's something in Ethiopia. They have a civil war, do you know that? And also they break down between different ethnic groups. They try to unify them, but some of them are not happy because now they cannot speak out for their own ethnic identity. You have to talk about the national identity. This is why I spend time talking about the Liberian, the Rwanda, not because I care too much about them. I want to answer your question. They say, what do you do? It's the same thing. Whichever way that you choose, those are the consequences. And you have to choose, but if you choose one way, you have the trade-off to the other side. If you go this way, there's a trade-off of this one.
So what do we do?
Well, it's up to you to decide what do you want to do. Some people like Rwanda now under Paul
Kagame.
Kagame, he chose a national one. He becomes so authoritarian. I was in Rwanda too. I lived there for a few months, and you can see if you go to Rwanda, and everywhere you have a lot of soldiers, militia. They walk around everywhere. They enforce law and order and security. If they see anyone, any opposition, anything which asks for ethnic, tribal protests, they will come and arrest you, imprison you.
So you can't call you are a Tutsi. You cannot. You can't do that.
See, in America, I can say I'm an Asian American. It's okay. At this moment that I'm speaking. So you ask the question, which one do you choose? Even in South Africa, after apartheid now, in many different townships, you know there's a lot of xenophobic violence in Africa right now at this moment among different ethnic groups, among different races. People from Zimbabwe, Zambia, for example, they come to South Africa and work. Many of them are attacked by the local blacks and the tribes. And they are blacks, but they attack each other. Tribalism. So you want to ban that? You say now national identity. I'm saying that, I'm not saying ask you which one to do. I'm saying that if you do one, you have consequences. People will get pissed off. But if you go to this side, the other side will get pissed off. So which one do you do? It's not for me to tell you what to do. You have to choose.
Finally, let's tackle the issue of which you have just highlighted here, the mindset change. In Malawi, we've got a blueprint, 2063 agenda, and one of the big enabler for us to achieve that is the call to mindset change. How crucial is that aspect? I
think that you have to change some of these mindsets. Now, how exactly do you change? I cannot decide for you, because that is the agenda of the people to decide, not for someone, for me.
Yes, but I'm just asking, how crucial is that in terms of developing the country or derailing the development of the country?
If the goal that you are asking me about the 2063, whatever vision, if that is your goal, I think that this kind of issue are very important. You need to address that. But my concern is that you may be listening too much of the United Nations, because the United Nations in many cases is also part of the problem. Many of the programs by the United Nations are often very detrimental to local development. And many of those decisions are often made not by people who are local, by people who are over there.
Okay.
In the rich and powerful countries, they control some of the mechanism of project evaluation. Many of the agenda by the United Nations, by the way, are often under the influence of the major powers, including the Charter of the United Nations, which was not written by black people, but by Europeans, by white people, the United Nations Charter. And many of the values that they represent do not represent the values of humanity, represent of the domination of a certain group. That's why United Nations in many ways is a dysfunctional international organization. People are complaining, even right now. Look at the BRICS. The BRICS now is trying to have expansion, and many, at the moment that we are speaking, there are more than 25 countries now they want to join BRICS. But none of them want to join G7. Why? Because now we are moving into a different world order in which people want to be inclusive. G7 is exclusive. The BRICS is inclusive. They are now, look at the 25 countries which have applied for membership to BRICS. Why can't they go to the United Nations and ask for help? Because the United Nations is not doing much of anything. They are dominated by the major powers. And people get fed up. People now look for alternative international organizations. That's why BRICS now become more and more popular, because they are inclusive. They stand for the global south. People get shut out of that process, including many of the United Nations agendas. There's a problem, isn't it? So before you go into this kind of vision, my job is to tell you that it's not so clear-cut. There are some choices for you to make. Whichever choice you do, there are consequences. And many of the agenda are not necessarily good for you. Just give you another one. It's also a question of mindset too. I think Kenya or Uganda just passed some new law against homosexuality. Have you heard about that? Now, many people are complaining now that that is the imposition of Western values into African countries. Those values are not voted by humanity. There are some of the agenda in Western countries. The progressive movement, now they are trying to advocate through many NGOs. In Africa, many of them are promoting this kind of values, and many people in Africa get upset. Now, how about that? So before you champion some international values and beliefs, think twice. Those are not international. Those have been also part of the colonial, now neo-colonial legacy of the international institutions. Think about it. I read your vision before. I question many of the values, sustainability, for example, democratic values. Many of this, think about it, is very questionable when implemented in the context of Africa. So why do you think, for example, now you have the talk about climate change, and the international community is divided?
Pleasure. having you in the studio.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
That's Professor Peter Baofu, my guest, and we have had a very candid conversation here, and I hope you've gotten 2 or 3 things from this conversation. My name is Emmanuel Thuwala. I've been your presenter in the Speak Out. Goodbye for now.